Well, my name is Barry, and welcome to the first ever episode of the One Lad podcast. Christmas is right around the corner, and as is Black Friday. And with that in mind, I wanted to share with you my top gift recommendations for the musicians in your life. Before we kick things off, I want to urge everybody to please subscribe to this podcast on whatever medium you might be listening to, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, whatever. Or if you're watching on YouTube, then please subscribe to the channel. Every subscribe and every like and share really helps out the channel an awful lot. So thank you very much to anyone that does do that. I've prepared a PDF document of all the items that I'm going to be discussing in today's podcast that you can get at oneladmusic.com/Christmas wishlist, or you can just simply click the link in the description. In that PDF, I've included links to all the items that I will be discussing, so you can go and check them out yourselves and not have to go looking for them. Full disclosure, it is an affiliate link, so if you go onto the Gear for Music website through my link, I'll make a teeny tiny commission on anything you buy, but at no extra cost to yourself. That's the most important thing. You'll pay the same price, they'll give me the tiniest little tuppence just to say thanks for sending you their way. Subscribing to channels and subscribing to podcasts and you buying using affiliate links really help out small channels and small businesses just like myself, and they cost the consumer absolutely nothing at all. So I would urge you all to do that if you can at all. Let's get started. I've tried my best to categorise this as my recommendations for the best first instrument for a complete and utter beginner, then the best second instrument, so maybe you've been playing for a year or so and your beginner instrument just isn't cutting it anymore and maybe you want to take that step up into something a little bit more professional. And also, the third sort of category is for the musician that has absolutely everything, and that this gift might be just something that they don't have or that they've not seen before, or something that everybody else won't have and they'll be the only one. Instruments that I'm going to be covering are instruments that I play myself. So guitar, acoustic and electric, bass, drums, and other stringed instruments such as ukuleles, banjos, mandolins, etc, etc, etc. So before purchasing your first instrument or purchasing a first instrument for somebody, you want to make sure that it's going to be a worthwhile investment by making sure that the instrument you buy is going to be an investment. What I mean by that is that your first instrument should inspire you to want to play. There's no point spending 100 quid on a guitar, for example, that doesn't play well, doesn't sound nice, doesn't look nice, because if that's the case, you're not going to want to pick it up and actually learn how to play it. You're going to dread the thought of actually picking it up, and you're going to get nowhere, in which case 100 quid wasted. Nowadays, luckily enough, the gap between quality and price is like teeny tiny. It's so small. There are so many fantastic instruments out there that nowadays you can pick up for the same price as a beginner model guitar, as long as you know where to look and what to look for. So that's what I'm here for. So we're going to start with a beginner's guitar. Common misconception is that you have to start on an acoustic guitar. That's absolutely not true in any way, shape or form. An acoustic guitar is its own instrument, the same as an electric guitar is its own instrument. People often start on an acoustic guitar because that's usually what people have lying around their house. An acoustic guitar, literally just you get your guitar and you play it and you don't need anything else. That's just it. An electric guitar, you need a little bit more. You need your amplifier, you need the cable. It's a bit louder. So that's probably why an awful lot of people usually start on acoustic guitar and then progress onto electric guitar when at least the noise they're going to be making is somewhat musical. But let's have a look-see at what I think the best starter acoustic guitar is. And it is the Tanglewood Crossroads series. Now, these can be gotten on Amazon or they can be gotten on Gear for Music for approximately, I've seen them for as little as £80. And I've seen them for as much as 90-ish pounds, thereabouts. I don't think they've ever broken 100. I don't think I've ever seen them break 100. But for your first instrument, it is hands down the best quality guitar I have ever come across for that money. It's the best quality guitar I've ever come across for an awful lot more money, in fact. I have a couple of students that have these guitars, and they are absolutely phenomenal. They sound absolutely brilliant, and they cost pretty much the same as a night out. The one that I have linked, it has electronics built into it, so it's got a pickup built into it, so that in 2 or 3 years' time, when your student has gotten fairly decent at playing, and maybe they want to go and do an open mic, or they want to do a bit of recording, it's already there for them. Now, this guitar probably won't last you forever, but you'll definitely get 90 quid's worth of it. It stays in tune really, really well. It sounds really, really well. And as far as I know, it comes strung with really, really high-end strings. Next beginner acoustic guitar I have to recommend is the Ibanez Talman. Now, I am a huge fan of Ibanez, as this list will probably tell you. And the Talman is one of my all-time favourite models. I have two of them myself. I've got a black acoustic one and I've got a gold top electric one, which I adore. The acoustic model is a much smaller bodied guitar for smaller hands and smaller people. And it's got built-in electronics. It's got a built-in pickup. So same as with the previous guitar, the Tanglewood Crossroads, this could very well be a lifetime guitar. I've got mine hanging in the wall there. It's just out of shot. For those of you listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or something like that and can't see that, you just have to imagine a load of guitars hanging on the wall beside me. And I have gigged my Talman loads of times, and it is absolutely fantastic. I think I got mine second hand for about £90, something like that. Brand new, it's coming in anywhere from 150-ish up to about 170-ish, thereabouts, depending on what colour and what finish you want to go with. There is also a higher end model with a slightly different pickup configuration and a slightly different finish, and it's more of a higher end. But even at the higher end, you're only paying 230-ish, 240-ish pounds for a lifetime guitar, which is, believe me, not an awful lot at all. It's expensive on the day if you don't have £200, but it's only expensive on the day. An honourable mention here that I'm not going to really go too far into because I don't have an awful lot of experience with them is the Fender Sonoran Mini. Sonoran, Sonoran. I'll make sure there's a link in the PDF. Came across these the other day and they look absolutely phenomenal, and they are in the same price bracket as the Talman and as the Tanglewood. The mini ones do not have a pickup as far as I can tell, but ideal for the smaller hands. For really small hands, really small people, it'll fit them absolutely perfectly. And if you look at Ed Sheeran, he's still playing a teeny tiny little guitar. So again, that is a potential lifetime guitar from a complete beginner up until you're playing Wembley with Ed. Now, bit of fun. Electric guitars. Starting off again, my old pals, Ibanez. I've got the Ibanez Paul Gilbert model. Now, some of you might not know who Paul Gilbert is, but I can guarantee you that 99% of you have heard him play guitar. Paul Gilbert is the guitarist from the band Mr. Big, and you might know their song To Be With You. That was released back in the very early 90s. Mr. Big are one of my favourite bands, and Ibanez obviously are my favourite guitar brand, so this was a no-brainer. Again, this is a mini guitar, so it's a smaller sized electric guitar. I've got a couple of students that have these guitars and they are outstanding. There's a couple of different finishes. There is a white with black graphics on it. The graphics are an F-hole. If you're watching this on YouTube, I am now pointing to my logo. That is an F-hole. So imagine the guitar it's white and it's got two of those on it on either side. It looks cool as. So there's a white with black F-holes and black pickups. There is a blue, a really cool electric blue with pink F-holes and pink pickups, which is my absolute favourite. And there is also a green one, really cool green colour with black F-holes and black pickups. All these guitars go brand new for somewhere in the region of, I've seen them go as low as 100 and just below 160 up into about 180. As a first guitar, it is phenomenal. As a second guitar, it's phenomenal. As a spare guitar, it's phenomenal. Or as just something cool to hang on your wall, it's absolutely phenomenal. Can't recommend it enough. The next one is the Squier Jazzmaster Mini. Now, Squier are the more affordable range from Fender. Most of you have probably heard of Fender. The Jazzmaster is not your standard looking electric guitar like what you'd be thinking. It's a little bit more offset. Think about what Kurt Cobain used to play. Now, he used to play a model called a Jaguar, but they're all sort of in the same offset looking family. Very affordable guitar, coming in at approximately 130-ish pounds. Again, a mini guitar, so ideal for the smaller hands, and looks cool as. So will absolutely inspire playing. You'll want to pick it up, you'll never want to put it down. I've got a student who has this, and it sounds great. Decent setup, decent strings, and you're ready to go. I've got one more recommendation while I'm on the miniature guitars, and this could come under the heading of a gift for the guitarist that also has everything. I've never seen these before. I think that they must be new for this year, or certainly in the past year or two. And this is the Brian May mini guitar. So Brian May is famous for playing his red special guitar that he built himself with his dad back in whatever, 1960s or something like that, because he couldn't afford a Fender Stratocaster and he built it himself. And he is pretty much known for playing just that one guitar throughout his whole career. In fact, there's only 2 occasions that I've ever seen him play anything else. One was a Telecaster in the video for Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and another one was he played a Stratocaster in something or other that I can't remember what it was. But now his range of guitars, Brian May guitars, has branched out into a miniature version of the Red Special. It's got one single pickup in the bridge position, but it's still got all the mental switches that he's got. Bit more expensive, heading up towards the £300 mark. However, this is going to be one seriously cool mini guitar to have. There's definitely one on my own Christmas list. So Santa, if you're listening, you know what to do, mate. Okie dokie, so that's the beginners covered. Let's have a look at something for the intermediate guitar player, or as I like to call it, your first decent or real guitar. Of course, if you go for any of the options that I've already mentioned for the beginners, that's your first real guitar. But this is going to be your first grown-up guitar. So starting things off, Epiphone. Epiphone have been around forever, and Epiphone are the more affordable range from Gibson. You've more than likely heard of Gibson. The Gibson Les Paul is one of the most famous guitars of all time. In fact, the 2 most famous electric guitars of all time are more than likely the Fender Stratocaster / Telecaster. They can be lumped into the one. Guitar purists are going to go absolutely mental at me for saying that, but anyway. So you've got the Telecaster / Stratocaster and the Gibson Les Paul. This, however, is not a Les Paul model. This is an SG model. The SG model was first introduced back in the 60s, I believe, early 60s. And players such as Angus Young, Tony Iommi, Frank Zappa, loads of lads have played SGs. Angus Young is probably the most famous player for playing SG. Again, people are going to go absolutely mental at me for saying that. I can hear the comment section on YouTube going bananas. This particular model is the new SG Standard with a Maestro Vibrolo. Now, what in the name of God is a Vibrolo, I hear he's saying? A Vibrolo is just another name for a tremolo system, or a whammy bar, or some people call it a wiggle stick, or something along those lines. It is basically the metal bar that sticks out of a guitar that you can push down on, and it goes wow. That sounds really cool. Think Eddie Van Halen. Wow. Epiphone have recently undergone a rebrand, whatever you want to call it. They've sort of changed their image up a little bit, and they've changed their headstock design. Usually the quickest way to tell the difference between a Gibson and an Epiphone is to look at the headstock, because the headstock is a totally different shape on an Epiphone and on a Gibson. And of course it says Epiphone on the head of an Epiphone and Gibson on the head of a Gibson. But Epiphone have recently changed that up in the past year or two, and the headstock looks an awful lot better, in my opinion. At the moment, this, in my opinion, is one of the best value Epiphones that you can buy. It looks cool as, and it's not something that everybody else is going to have. I personally wouldn't be going too near the higher end Epiphones, because some of them are up at around the £700 or £800 mark. In which case, you'd be just as well buying a second-hand Gibson. Couple of extra quid more, and you can get yourself a really good second-hand Gibson for the same money as a brand new Epiphone. Just a little top tip there for you. So that's the Epiphone SG Standard with the Maestro Vibrolo. Next up, you guessed it, an Ibanez. This is the Ibanez Gem Junior, which is the Steve Vai signature guitar. This one comes in at approximately £400-ish, thereabouts, and it comes in some mental colours. This one in particular that I've linked you to is yellow. The Gem is a spin-off of my favourite guitars of all time, the Ibanez RG series. I personally have 2 Ibanez RGs because they are just fantastic. This particular guitar has 3 different pickups. It's got a humbucker in the bridge position, it's got a single coil in the middle, and it's got a humbucker in the neck position, as well as a 5-way switch. So it's probably one of the most versatile guitars on this entire list. It's got a floating double locking tremolo, which means that you can push it down and dive. You can push the whammy bar down and go wow, but you can also pull the whammy bar up and go It's also got a really interesting design on the fretboard. Usually guitar fretboards will just have like dots to tell you what number fret you're on, but this one has it's what's called the Tree of Life inlay, and it goes all the way down the neck, and it's like vines and leaves and stuff. Really cool. I really like it. So that's the Gem Junior. Don't get fooled by the name Junior. It's not a smaller guitar or anything like that. It's a full-sized grown-ups, adults guitar, whatever you want to call it. It is simply named the Junior because there is a far more expensive model called the Ibanez Gem in their more premium range that is about $2,500, and there is an even more expensive model called the Pia, which is Steve Vai's other signature guitar, which is not too dissimilar to the Gem. And one of those will set you back anything up to about $4,000. So unless you're minted or love your guitar playing friend very, 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 very much, I would stick with the Gem Junior. You won't go wrong. Now for an acoustic. Next up is the Takamine, or Takamine. Not entirely sure how to say that. Some people say Takamine, some people say Takamine. I am some of the people that say Takamine. And the model is GJ72CE. Unnecessary amount of letters. This particular model is a 12-string model. Now you might think to yourself, 12 strings, how are you meant to play that? 12-string guitars are strung and played like 6-string guitars. The strings are just simply doubled up. So you play 2 strings at the one time. They're really, really, really close together. And you play both of them at the same time. It sounds delightful. Think the start of Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. That's what it sounds like. Or the most famous 12-string song in the entire world, Stairway to Heaven. I have the 6-string model of this guitar and I love it. It sounds fantastic. Really solid workhorse guitar for gigging. Won't let you down. Pickups sound amazing. Usually it's hard to tell the difference with acoustic guitar pickups because they're all roughly the same, sort of. They all have the same principle. But this one in particular, to my ear, sounds quite nice. Quite easy to play, quite responsive. Yeah, I like it. Another acoustic guitar is the Fender Malibu series. Now I mentioned the Sonoran earlier on, and this is basically the full-size version of the Sonoran. This again is another one that's going to fit into the same category of a gift for the guitarist that has everything else, but it's not that far out there that it looks abnormal or anything like that. But it still will stand out from the crowd. Very, very nice guitars. Can't go wrong with them. Some really, really nice finishes as well. Really, really nice finishes. Again, Santa. Get on it, lad. Next up is another acoustic. It is the Epiphone Masterbuilt Hummingbird electroacoustic guitar. Mentioned earlier on, the Epiphone have recently undergone redesign, whatever you want to call it. And this Hummingbird model is pretty much my favourite acoustic guitar model of all time. Before, when you got an Epiphone Hummingbird, it had the Epiphone headstock. And the biggest difference for me was that on the Gibson version of the Hummingbird, the pickguard, which is the little, like, it looks like a picture on the front of the guitar to the right hand side as you're looking at it if you're right handed, just beside the strings and on the side of the sound hole. That's what the pickguard is. On the Gibson version, it had a really big, thick, chunky pickguard, right substantial, good bit of substance to it. And on the Epiphone version, it just had a thin, looked like a photocopy of it basically. The new Epiphone series, the Masterbuilt series, has that big, thick, chunky, substantial pickguard, and it looks fantastic. As far as I know, they also use the same paint and same finishing process on, or maybe not the same, but very similar finishing process on the Epiphone as they do on the Gibsons. Which leads me to believe that you can either spend £800 thereabouts on a brand new Epiphone Hummingbird, or you could spend about, 5 times the amount on a Gibson Hummingbird just to get a different headstock. Maybe you can hear the difference. If you can, comment below or send me an email and let me know. And it's electric acoustic, so you can plug it in, you can record stuff, you can gig with it, you can do everything you want with it. I have included a Fender Stratocaster. That is all. And last but not least in the category of intermediate, first real decent guitars is a brand new offering from Ibanez. And it is the Ibanez AZ Essentials series. The AZ series came out a couple of years ago and took the guitar world by storm. Listen to me sounding like I'm presenting a radio program. But it really, really did. This was Ibanez's answer to some of the Suhr guitars. Suhr being a very, very high-end sort of alternative to a Fender Stratocaster. And Ibanez offered the same sort of quality, the same sort of product, but at a much cheaper price point. It was still in around £1,600, £1,600 up to about £2,000, but Suhrs are about twice that. This year, they have brought out the AZ Essentials line, and it is a more affordable line, but gives the same quality. It's in the £300 to £400 price bracket, and it is a fantastic alternative to the likes of some of the higher end Squier Stratocasters or some of the lower end Mexican Fender Stratocasters. The higher end Fenders tend to be made in the US and the more affordable Fenders tend to be made in Mexico. Then the affordable line of Fender is Squier, and they tend to be made in places like Indonesia, Korea, China, places like that. And in my opinion, the Ibanez AZ Essentials series will be more than a competitor for the higher end Squier stuff and the lower end Fender stuff. Something slightly different and not just your bog standard run-of-the-mill Stratocaster. And now for the guitarist that has everything. This is another offering from Brian May Guitars, and it's a brand new model. Completely different shape. It's called the Ariel, something along those lines. Arielle. It's a mental looking guitar. If you know what a Gibson Explorer is or an Ibanez Destroyer shape, that's what shape it is. Similar-ish shape to that. Or an easier way of looking at it is that it looks like the letter Z or Z, depending on your persuasion, whatever way you say that. It's all white and blue and orange and mental looking. It's got the same pickup configuration as his normal Red Special. You've got 3 single coils and all the mental switching options that are included with that. But this is something that the guitarists in your life definitely won't have just yet. And as soon as they see it, it will definitely be on their shopping list. Next up, we have the signature guitar of my absolute hero, Eddie Van Halen. It is the EVH Stripe Series red, black and white stripes. For me, there is no cooler guitar in the world than this. It is far from the most versatile guitar in the world. It's got one single pickup wired to a volume pot and then goes straight into your guitar. It's got a whammy bar that dives down and that's it. However, this production model has a dummy pickup in the neck position, the same as Eddie's guitar did. The pickup in Eddie's guitar was never really wired up, or wasn't famously wired up anyway. But this one, in the production model, you can wire it up and you can have a neck pickup should you wish to do so. But to me, that defeats the purpose of the whole guitar. Every guitarist in the world wants a Frankenstrat at some point in their life, and if they say they don't, they're lying. This next guitar is one that I personally own myself. It's a Kramer Beretta Special. Now, Kramer was a big guitar company in the 80s, and they just kind of went bust in the 90s. Eddie Van Halen had Kramer models and endorsed Kramer. And so did all them boys from the hair metal phase, all your Motley Crues and Skid Rows and all them. They all played Kramer. Well, if they didn't play, they played something similar to Kramer. Motley Crue, Mick Mars from Motley Crue definitely played Kramer. But this Beretta Special comes in at £149. And hands down, the best quality 150 quid guitar I've ever bought. Now, as with the Van Halen guitar, it is in no way, shape or form versatile. It's got one humbucker pickup and one volume, and it's got a standard tremolo, and that's it. That is it. But that's all you need. Built like a tank. If you set it up right, it'll stay in tune, and it looks really cool. 150 quid, you cannot go wrong. An acoustic guitar now that you may not have come across from Yamaha. It is called the Yamaha Silent Guitar. You can get it in a variety of finishes and colours. And you can also get it in a nylon string as well as a steel string. I could be making this up, but if you search hard enough, there may even be a 12-string model. And it's exactly as it says on the tin. The guitar itself doesn't really make an awful lot of noise until you plug it in. It needs to be plugged in order for you to hear it. It's got detachable sides, and it just looks really mental, but it sounds phenomenal. This is ideal if you like to play guitar and practice, and maybe you've got a baby. Maybe you don't want to wake up everybody in the middle of the night. Really handy feature of this guitar is that you can plug headphones straight into it, and there are effects built into the guitar itself. So you can literally just plug this into a powered speaker and away you go. And the last thing for the guitarist that maybe has everything is not a guitar, but it is in fact a banjo. But it is a 6-string banjo. So it's strung and tuned just like a guitar, but it's a banjo. This particular banjo I think is one of the coolest looking instruments I've ever seen. It's made by a company called Luna, and it is the Celtic banjo, and it's got all like Celtic designs on the inside of it. It's got a clear banjo head on it, so you can see straight through the body. and look at the Celtic design on the inside of it. It's never going to be seen in the same light as a 4-string banjo or a 5-string banjo, for example, but it certainly is its own instrument in its own right, and it gives a completely and utterly different flavour to your playing. You play totally differently when you're playing a 6-string banjo than when you're playing a guitar. Big recommendation for someone that maybe records covers, or does cover songs, or plays in an acoustic 2-piece and wants to add just a slightly different texture to their sound instead of just having 2 acoustic guitars. All this talk of electric guitars is not much use if you don't have an amplifier to plug it into. I've got 2 main electric guitar amps to recommend. Firstly is what I believe is the best beginner guitar amp out there at the moment, and that is the Blackstar ID Core 10, and it's currently on version 3. Version 3, Mark 3, whatever you want to call it. It's a little 10-watt amplifier, set you back about £100, has all the effects and sounds built into it that a beginner could ever need, and even most professionals could ever need. This means that for the same price as like maybe a lower priced Marshall or something like that is very, very basic, you could get an amp that sounds just as good but with loads more features that will last you much longer. These amps tend to all come with an emulated line out so that you can record with it. You can also plug it into a PA system and gig with it if need be, and some of them even have a USB out, so you can use it as your audio interface going into your computer if you're recording covers or whatever else. And some of them even come with Bluetooth, so you don't even need to plug your phone in or turn on Alexa or anything like that to play music along to. You can simply just start playing music on your phone, Bluetooth it to your amp, and away you go. That is all you need. And the second amp is what I believe has become the industry standard combo amplifier, and that is the Boss Katana 50. This is the Mark II version. The Mark I came out a couple of years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and again it comes with everything built in that any professional guitarist could ever possibly need. Boss have been making guitar effects forever. Some of the late 70s, early 80s Boss pedals that were made in Japan are some of the most expensive and sought after pedals in the world. And in the past few years, they've delved into the world of making amps, and they made the Boss Katana. And for £200-ish, it is the best amp you'll ever buy for that money. Of course, I would always prefer to go for a valve amp and a couple of pedals in front of it, but for convenience and for an all-in-one package, you will not get better. You can even pick up the Mark I Boss Katana for about £100, £120 at the moment, and they're 50 watts, so they're going to be loud enough to gig with. There is a 100-watt version. There's also a head and cabinet version. That means that it's just simply an amplifier head that you lift off and you plug it into an external speaker, like what you see rock stars playing behind. You see the massive wall of amplifiers. You can get the Boss Katana in that sort of format as well. But my recommendation for this year is the Boss Katana 50 Mark II. Let's talk about bass. Bass is a really, really cool instrument. If you get good at it, there's nothing better. But bass is also a really, really good instrument if you're a guitarist and you've been playing for a little while and you want to try something just a little bit different, just another string to add to your bow. Bass is probably the easiest thing, bar 6-string banjo, depending on your persuasion. Bass is probably the easiest instrument to start into after you've learned how to play guitar. Basses usually tend to have just 4 strings, and they are tuned the same as the 4 bottom strings on an electric guitar, or an acoustic guitar for that matter. So, for your first bass, I would recommend another offering from Luna. And this is the Luna Tattoo Bass. Now, I've wanted this bass for years because I think it's just one of the coolest looking things in the world. It's got tribal tattoos on it. Where can you go wrong? It's a short scale bass, meaning that it's not as long as a standard bass. Standard bass tends to be really, really long compared to an electric guitar, and the notes are further away from you, basically. This is an ideal bass for those of you that maybe have small hands, short arms, or can't be bothered by having to lug around something that's 7 feet long. Next up is another short scale bass from the boys over at Ibanez. And it's another Talman. It's another short scale bass, so the notes aren't too far away from you and it's easy to get into. It'll sound great. It's got precision and a jazz pickup. Basically, it's got loads of tonal options if you don't really know what that means, or maybe you're not really that interested in what that means. And those two are basically my top recommendations for a first bass guitar. Of course, you could always have a look at a Squier Precision or a Squier Jazz Bass. Standard. Maybe you've been playing bass for a little while and it's time to get a better one. And where better to look than, you guessed it, Ibanez. As I mentioned already, the Ibanez RG is one of my favourite guitars, if not my favourite guitar model of all time. And this year, Ibanez are bringing out an RG bass. It's got a PJ configuration, which is half precision bass, half jazz bass. It's got shark tooth inlays on the fretboard, so instead of having dots, it's got shark's teeth. It's black, and it looks just so cool. And the 4-string version is less than £300 at the time of recording this. 5-string version is just a little bit more, but I don't think you can get any better for a more versatile, cooler looking, first decent bass. Unless, of course, you get an Epiphone Thunderbird. The Thunderbird has been around for donkey's years and is one of the most recognisable bass guitars of all time. Thunderbird, again, is another one of those that kind of half looks like an Explorer-shaped guitar, or like a Z, sort of. And it's just really, really cool. 2 humbucker pickups. It's a full-scale bass, so it's going to be huge, but they're just epic. You can get it in a variety of finishes. There's a vintage finish, which is like a sunburst finish, and then there's also a white one. And Nicky Sixx from Motley Crue used to have a signature one a few years ago, so if you can find one of those, they'll be really, really cool. Or just go the whole hog and get yourself a Gibson Thunderbird. You won't go too far wrong. Next up is a bass that I have myself. It's a Yamaha BB model. The BB has been around forever as well. And wouldn't you know it, the bass player from Van Halen, Michael Anthony, plays a BB. Billy Sheehan from Mr. Big, there's them popping up again, also started off playing a Yamaha BB. He's now got his own line of Yamaha guitars. But the BB series is just, they're fantastic. Absolute workhorse guitars. Anything made by Yamaha is just spot on. You won't ever go too far wrong with it. So there's the Yamaha BB series. I have also included a Fender Precision bass and a Fender Jazz bass. That is all. Now, a couple for the bass player that has everything. The Dean Metalman bass. Very, very, very affordable bass guitar in around, I think it's about £180 thereabouts. And it looks like a star. How cool is that? There's a couple of other models. There's a V, there's a star, and then there's an Explorer shape. Just pure cool. Just so cool. And now we have yet another one from Brian May Guitars. And it is the Brian May Red Special bass. Definitely on my Christmas list. It's exactly as it says in the tin. It's a Red Special in a bass. What's not to love? Now, let's have a look at some other instruments. Some other stringed instruments. Start off with some ukuleles. For anybody starting out ukulele, the best beginner's ukulele that I've come across so far is made by a company called Martin Smith. And as far as I know, these are just a generic company from the Far East that maybe in this part of the world is called Martin Smith, somewhere else in the world is called something else, and somewhere else in the world is called something else, and they just put a different name on them. But the Martin Smith beginner series of ukuleles they're fantastic. I've got a couple of students that have them, and I was blown away with the sound of them. Now, they're not going to last forever. They're not a forever instrument by any means. But as a first instrument, for the same price as what you would spend on one of those cheap colouredy looking ukuleles that look like toys, you could get what I believe is a very, very good quality ukulele. Now, maybe you've been playing ukulele for a little while. Maybe you've been playing guitar for a little while. And you want to branch out into something that's a little bit more professional sounding. Fender do a Billie Eilish signature ukulele. It's really, really cool. It's got black with I think it's like people graphics on it or something. It's really, really cool. Bit more on the expensive side. I think it's up towards the £300 mark. But you can guarantee it's going to be class quality and it will be a collector's item in years to come. So think of it as an investment instead of just spending 300 quid on a guitar that's that size. Next up on our list is a ukulele made by Ortega. And it is a double neck ukulele. That's all you need to say. It's double neck ukulele. Do you know what I mean? You're welcome. Then I've got another hugely cool ukulele made by Dean. Another mention for Dean. And this is the Dean ML ukulele. It's a ukulele that looks like a star. It's all pointy. Looks proper metal. Think Pantera. You know the guitar that Dimebag Darrell from Pantera plays and it's all pointy and it goes out like that? Yeah. That's what it is. But it's a ukulele. You're welcome. Another stringed fretted instrument is a mandolin. I've played mandolin for a number of years now and I've had a load of mandolins and I've got a load of them that I could easily recommend, but they're not that easy to come by. You sort of have to find them second hand or in specialist shops. However, this is one that I've seen on the go for a good long while and it's pretty much exactly the same as the first mandolin that I ever had. And it's made by a company called Tanglewood. Same as the very, very first guitar on this list. This one is a Tanglewood Union series. and it is a wonderful sounding mandolin. Mandolin is a small instrument with 8 strings typically, but is played as 4 strings. So same as a 12-string guitar, it is double strung. So each of the pairs of strings are close together, and you just play it as a 4-string. This mandolin has a pickup system built into it, so you can plug it in, you can record with it, you can gig with it, you can learn with it, and just have all types of fun. Learn a new instrument. Mandolin is probably the most sensible transition from someone that plays violin, maybe, as they're both tuned exactly the same way. So if you're a violin player and wanting to get into playing a stringed fretted instrument that you strum instead of bow, a mandolin is a really, really good one to look at, because you'll already know what to do with this hand. You just need to figure out what to do with this one. And now we get to drums. Drums are a bit of a funny one, because unless you've got an absolute mansion of a house, you don't tend to have more than one drum kit. Really. In most cases, it tends to be a 1 in, 1 out policy, which is sad. However, here are my recommendations on some drum kits that you should look at owning. For a beginner, for an absolute beginner that is really, really small, a full-size drum kit is huge and you'll get lost behind it. So I recommend the Pearl Roadshow Junior. It's a 5-piece drum kit, comes with the snare, 2 rack toms, floor tom, kick drum, hi-hat and crash cymbal, as well as all the hardware necessary. Looks like a full-size drum kit, but it's much, much smaller, so your little one can actually reach everything. Sounds quite good and all once you tune it up properly. Top tip for your first drum set. If you set up the drum set and you do the bass pedal, or the kick drum, the one that is on your right foot, and you push a pedal and the beater hits the drum, and it sounds all boomy and manky and not nice at all, throw a pillow or a blanket or something into the drum itself. It sounds stupid. It sounds like a really, really stupid thing to do. It sounds like you're going to ruin the drum. Trust me, it'll sound much, much better. That being said, any drum kit that you buy, be it the Pearl Roadshow or any of the other ones that I look at, that I recommend, or even anything second hand, tuning is absolutely everything with every instrument, but especially with drums. Drums, even the best drum kit in the world can sound terrible if it's not tuned properly. So if you do pick up a second-hand drum kit, I would recommend book a drummer for an hour to come and tune your drum kit and set it up properly, and you're halfway there. It'll sound so much better, it'll perform better, and you will learn quicker. And you're going to want to play it more as well, because it's going to sound better. This next drum kit is a forever kit, in my opinion. That's going to be suitable for little beginners, big beginners, little professionals, and big professionals. And this is the Tama Club Jam kit. It is a more compact, I'm not going to say small, it is smaller, but I'm not going to say a small kit. It's a more compact kit that sounds amazing. I've got a student that has a kit similar to this. It's made by Tama, and it sounds absolutely gorgeous. Some decent skins and a good tune, and it'll pit itself against any full-size drum kit. This is where recommendations get a little bit awkward. A drum set tends to come in 2 parts, 3 parts even. You've got the drums, which are called the shells, and they're the actual drums that you hit. Then you've got the cymbals, which are the big round metal things that go psh. And then you've got the hardware. Hardware is what holds the whole kit together. The higher up in price bracket that you go with a drum kit, the less you seem to get with it. You're getting more in quality with the individual parts of the kit, but you're getting less of the kit as a whole. That makes buying a better drum kit as a present a little bit more tricky. You just need to put in a little bit more work. My recommendation overall would be to phone up a music shop and explain the situation, and they will be more than happy to help you. But some drum kits that I've got experience with, and I would recommend no bother, are the Mapex series. I've got a couple of students that have Mapex Mars kits, and they just sound phenomenal. Very, very easy to tune. All the skins that come with them are amazing, and they come in a variety of finishes, and they're gorgeous. I'd love one myself. Also, my favourite kit that I've ever had myself was my old Yamaha Stage Custom. I believe the Stage Custom series is still on the go, but anything by Yamaha, as I've said before, is going to be, it's just going to be phenomenal. So you won't go wrong with either Mapex or with Yamaha. As far as cymbals go, I personally like Sabian cymbals. There are many, many brands of cymbals. There are Sabian, Zildjian, Paste or Paiste, not entirely sure how to say it. Meinl, I don't really know how to say that one either. But as I say, plenty of options out there. If I was to recommend one set of cymbals to start you off, it would be the Sabian B8X series. The one that I have linked in the document is the B8X Promo Plus. Comes with 2 crash cymbals, hi-hats, and a ride. That's all you need, really. Maybe a splash. Maybe a China. But then if you get more stands and more arms, and it just looks a mess. Plus you need to have a load of space to house all this. And then finally, for a drum kit, if you were going down the separate route, buying a kit and then buying cymbals, you're also going to need hardware. I have found that Gear for Music's own hardware is brilliant. Usually cheaper hardware tends to mean cheaper hardware and not be the most usable. Tends to rust, whatever else. But I found that the Gear for Music stuff is absolutely fantastic. It's really, really good and really, really worth the money. Really, really worthwhile. Drumsticks then. You're going to need something to hit it with. You can't hit it with your hands. It's not going to sound great. I personally use the ProMark Firegrain 5A forward weighted sticks. Just means that they're slightly heavier in the front for making just a little bit more noise. To be perfectly honest, I don't even know if I can tell the difference, to be honest. But, like, you're not meant to say that. But they're the sticks that I use anyway. I think they look really cool. I like the way that they feel, and I can't recommend them enough. But any of the ProMark series stuff, any of the Vic Firth sticks, you won't go wrong. So that's it. That's the very, very first episode of the One Lad podcast. Thank you very, very much for listening. Thank you very, very much for watching. Don't forget to click that subscribe button on YouTube. Download the PDF of all my recommendations on my website at oneladmusic.com/Christmas wishlist, or you can just download it in the description. Don't forget to also subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's One Lad Music. Visit me on Facebook at One Lad Music Services. Have a look at my Instagram, which is One Lad Band. And then back to One Lad Music for TikTok. It's been my pleasure talking to you. I'll see you in the next one.